So this is something a little bit new. I'm doing a championship review for the midweek championship games because we had some really big results take place in midweek. The championship table is ever changing, and I thought because it's near the end of the season, I think it's good to go through every single game, and my opinions continuously changing, so I thought it would be good to release a championship review on the midweek games. Obviously this is taking away the Leeds and Stoke game, which is on tonight. For me, a must-win game for Leeds now, but I'll discuss that later on. Before we move on, if anyone got a correct score prediction, your comment will be on the screen right now. Well done Joshua Froude, Dark Knight 13 and James for getting the correct score prediction. Joshua Froude absolutely smashed it. You got 4 correct scores along with the Premier League and the Championship predictions. I had a bit of a stinker this week. I only had 1 correct prediction, and that was actually the second leg of the League One playoff semi-final against Oxford and Portsmouth, and I got the penalty winners wrong as well. I predicted Portsmouth to go through in penalties, although it was Oxford. Speaking of that, either Wycombe or Oxford United are going to be in the Championship next season. What does this mean for both clubs? Well, Wycombe have never ever been in the second tier of English football in their 133-year history, which is absolutely insane. And as with Oxford, they're, I think, sleeping a little bit on success. They were quite a successful team for the time, actually. They've not been in the second tier since 2001 and had a huge decline in the mid-2000s, spending 4 seasons in the conference. But since then, they've been progressing, so both sides would love to be in the Championship next season. I'm really excited to see who is going to be in the Championship next season. But if you like what you see, you want to see more Championship content, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If you haven't done, please subscribe to the channel. If you're new around the channel, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe if you can, and if you can, please share the channel. It really does help. Without any further ado, let's go through the midweek games and discuss what we've learned. So the first game, Nottingham Forest versus Fulham, the promotion 6-pointer, and it was Fulham that really got on top of this game. And one thing that's really impressed me about Fulham is their defence. In the beginning of the season, I've kind of slated their defence, saying it's a bit defensively naive, but it's 2 clean sheets and 2 1-0 victories in a row for Fulham. And for me, I think they're still in the promotion race. The goal itself, the build-up play was bizarre to say the least. Harry Arter slips, giving the ball away to Ben Watson, but it kind of gets off Ben Watson. He gets up and wins the ball back, and then he bends an absolute unstoppable strike in the top right corner of the goal. Nothing that Brice Samba could do about that. This is his 2nd goal of the season, and it was at the stroke of half-time, and if he didn't score that and it was 0-0 at half-time, maybe it could have been a different result. With Sabri Namucci and Nottingham Forest, he did try and change things. He brought on Adama Diakabi and he brought on Semedo. Both of them combined to make a decent opportunity for Nottingham Forest in the second half. And Forest were the better side in the second half in terms of chances, but Fulham, I have to say, really defended well. Even attacking players like Knockhart were really good defensively, who of course has recently signed on a permanent deal for Fulham, which is big news for Fulham. Fulham are within 5 points of Leeds as it stands. Of course, Leeds United have to play against Stoke tonight. As with Nottingham Forest, for me, I think 1 more win is needed, and I think they have entered into the playoffs. But with continuous poor performances like this, who knows what could happen in the Championship. And then to the stalemate of this midweek. Reading have used their scoring boost against Luton last week, scoring 5 goals past them, but rarely looked threatening, scoring none against Huddersfield, and looked very toothless going forward. I would say John Swift tried to make things happen, and I think he was continuously frustrated that his team were not getting forward. Mayte and Puskas especially, in the first half, I think he should have done a lot better. Only one keeper had to make one pretty good save, and that was Cabral. Alex Pritchard, who was brought on as a substitute from Danny Cowley, couldn't beat Cabral at his near post. Looking at this, it may be a valuable point for Huddersfield, following other sides in the relegation scrap have lost points this week. For Reading, I guess it's an okay result since it was a pretty equal game. They don't really have a lot to play for. Very saw the 2 bottom sides playing out a 1-1 draw, a result that does neither side any favours really. Barnsley, I think, was stronger for Luton like I originally predicted, but Simon Sluga, likewise against Leeds, really stood up in this game and had a man-of-the-match winning performance. Following a great save from Jacob Brown in the opening couple of minutes of the game, Luton take the lead with their first attack of the game. They attacked with pace. Elliot Lee managed to strike his shot off the post, but Luke Berry in the right place at the right time smashed in the rebound past the reach of Walter Ware. If he probably had not slipped over when he tried to get on, maybe he might have saved it, but it was a great goal by Luton. That made it 1-0. Barnsley were relentless in the first half. They really pressed for that equaliser, although they couldn't. Simon Sluga was just in top form. He denied Corley Rudro 2 chances. In the second half, Barnsley weren't as strong. Luton were definitely frustrating Barnsley for more of the game, but unfortunately for Luton, and Nathan Jones will feel very frustrated how late they did concede early on, because Barnsley, with their only 1 opportunity in that second half, managed to get their goal. It was a corner that Luton couldn't clear. Apohelm got space and he managed to level things up in the game, which I think in a balance of play was a bit deserved, but it would be disappointing for Luton how they couldn't shut the game down. But Luton's frustrations are even intensified because they should have won the game late on. Isaiah Brown put 1-1 by Luke Berry, where if he had more composure, it would have been 2-1 Luton and a valuable 3 points, but he hits his shot straight at Walton and it ends as a 1-1 draw. Disappointing for both sides, where I think if both of these sides do not win their next game, I think both of these sides are going down in my opinion. There we saw Brentford continuing their 100% form since the restart, but I have to say for 67 minutes, Charlton gave him an ultimate scare and looked like they were going to cause an upset. Williams broke through, supplying to Alfie Doherty. He crosses the ball and it's pinballed around the box. Macaulay Bonne gets ahead of David Raya and Charlton took a shot lead. David Raya will probably be disappointed he didn't win the ball off Macaulay Bonne, but it was a great goal from him. Brentford rallied forward, pressing for an equaliser. They hit the woodwork twice. Dylan Phillips made some great saves. Eventually, Charlton's resistance broke when Ben Rama charged through the box and got fouled by Josh Cullen. A stonewall penalty, a very ridiculous challenge. Ben Rama stepped forward and he scored a penalty that made it 1-1. His 4th goal in 4 days actually. He's the man on form right now. No wonder Chelsea are linked with him. Then on, you kind of knew where the game was going. Josh Da Silva, who was absolutely incredible in this game, may I say, crossed a delightful ball, reaching the head of Ethan Pinnock. He got a powerful header on it, and it got past the reach of Dylan Phillips. That made it 2-1 to Brentford. A very important win for Brentford, following that Nottingham Forest have dropped points. They are now pushing Leeds United. They're only 3 points behind them now. As for Charlton, it'll be disappointing for them, especially that they took the lead for 67 minutes of the game, that they couldn't have the defensive stability to keep Brentford away. But Brentford are one of the toughest sides to keep in bay. They're so relentless going forward with BMW. As with Brentford, it's now or never. They've just got to hope that Leeds or West Brom drop points in their last 4 games, and then maybe Brentford may have a chance to be promoted. Venturous result I didn't expect at all. Blackburn turned over an informed Cardiff side away from home and got their 2nd win after lockdown. This is my pick for result of midweek, by the way. What was your result in midweek? Let me know in the comments down below. A very even game actually, a really good game. Cardiff got the breakthrough. Joe Walls produces a very nice pass to Will Vaulks and he finishes it with absolute class. He lobs the ball perfectly, hitting the underside of the crossbar and into the goal. A great goal from Will Vaulks. Blackburn responded very well though. Following a corner, Nottingham got a really powerful diving header that hit the post, but then Danny Graham managed to score a rebound he couldn't miss from 2 yards. That made it 1-1. Cardiff retook the lead just on the stroke of half-time, which at the time looked vital for them. Joe Wall was once again doing a lot of damage. He passed it to Murphy, then to Bennett, and then eventually Robert Glatzel managed to poke the ball through the net. That made it 2-1 to Cardiff at half-time, and you felt maybe Cardiff could have just sat back, soaked the pressure, and maybe hit them on the break and killed the game off. No, that didn't happen at all. Blackburn had an inspirational second half performance. They got an equaliser within a minute in the second half. Samuel was fouled by Nelson, but the referee played on. It probably should have been a penalty, but Armstrong looped the ball back to Samuel, who managed to scoop the ball, gently caress it into the net, and that made it 2-2, so it was going to be a really tight game at the end. Blackburn's winner though was certainly not gentle. It was an absolute strike. Bakunin loses the ball cheaply in his own half. Armstrong wins it, and with a first time shot, he instinctively strikes the ball and crash lands into the net over Alex Smithies. It was a stunning goal, and in my opinion, my pick for goal for weekend as well. The technique was absolutely amazing from Adam Armstrong. He's in terrific form since the restart. I don't know if Blackburn necessarily deserved the 3 points because it was quite a close game. Both goalkeepers needed to make some really key saves at parts of the game, but you felt, I think it was going to be either a draw or 1 goal was going to make the difference, and you've got to give it to Adam Armstrong. He found the difference. This result has blew the race wide open for the playoffs, following that Preston, Swansea and Blackburn have won in midweek. It's a blow for Cardiff, who could have been within a point from Nottingham Forest. I think the playoff race is going to go to the final day. It's going to be exciting. Then we make it to yesterday's games. Millwall missed the chance to be within 2 points of the playoffs following a 2-0 home defeat to Middlesbrough. The first half was gritty, nothing really to comment on. The second half though was when things started to happen. Millwall looked a better side. Stojanovic had to make 2 good saves, including 1 terrific save following a Matt Smith header. Middlesbrough played on the counter-attack and eventually they got rewarded for it, but their opening goal was controversial to say the least. Ashley Fletcher looked like he lost the ball to Jake Cooper, hence he fouled him, but the referee played on, saw nothing in the foul. Fletcher drove forward. It was 3 versus 2, squared the ball to Britt Assombalonga, where he couldn't miss from that close range. That made it 1-0 to Middlesbrough, and Millwall, unsurprisingly, were absolutely fuming. I think it was a very contentious decision. Millwall's day worsened, where Ashley Fletcher found himself one-on-one with Bielkowski. Jake Cooper went flying in and got Middlesbrough a penalty and a yellow card. Ashley Fletcher stood up, managed to score the penalty. That made it 2-0 to Middlesbrough. That win puts Middlesbrough up to 18th place, but only 2 points above Hull though. Their work is definitely not done yet. As with Millwall, their playoff hopes are over if they do not win their last 4 games. Drop any more points within their last 4 games, their playoff hopes are over for me, in my opinion. It's not easy to overturn a 5-point gap with 4 games left, and you've got to have a lot of results go your way as well, so it's going to be really difficult for Millwall now for me. Then we saw West Brom increasing their chances for getting promoted back to the Premier League with a 2-0 victory over Derby, putting Leeds under some severe pressure tonight. They've now cracked the 80-point mark as well. Grady Diangana got the opening. It was a terrific pass from Campbell Grzycki, managing to find Diangana with a lot of space, and his composure to loop the ball round Ben Hamer and still score. It was a terrific goal from Grady Diangana. Great improvisation. West Brom probably should have had a penalty where it looked like Matt Clark pushed Pereira, but Derby were very poor. They did not have a shot on target in the whole 90 minutes, but despite dominating possession, they just did not create anything. And West Brom were happy for Derby to have a lot of the ball, but were absolutely devastating going forward. The game was out of their reach in the second half, where Pereira delivered a corner and Dara O'Shea getting the goal. Derby's day worsened as they received their 3rd red card in 5 games. Their discipline has raised a few eyebrows recently. Louis Sibley managed to get a red card from an off-the-ball incident with Dara O'Shea. As light as it may be, I think it is a red card. I think a lot of people would say that's harsh, and I get why, but I think following that, he has raised his leg into the calf of Dara O'Shea. Not aggressively, and maybe with not much intent, but you can still see the frustration in Louis Sibley. But I wouldn't be surprised if Derby do appeal the red card though. It's good from West Brom. They are 8 points away from securing automatic promotion. They are nearly back to the Premier League where they belong. Derby are still within 3 points within the playoffs, but they cannot feel that they missed an opportunity to make some ground and put severe pressure on Cardiff, drawing them on points. Their game against Cardiff, I think, is a must-win game now if they want to get into the playoffs. Speaking of sides putting pressure on Cardiff, that leads us to their Welsh rivals Swansea, who continue their encouraging performances with a 3-1 away victory against Birmingham. Birmingham, however, did have a strong start earlier on. Jukovic scored a header. After being denied by Woodman, he wasn't going to be denied a second time. Swansea, with their young talent and confidence, just looked more threatening going forward. Brewster equalised 7 minutes later after scoring a falling volley following Connor Roberts' header. Birmingham were left frustrated as they conceded on the stroke of half time, the worst time to concede a goal. Roberts laid a croft and it was deflected off Clark Slater, finding Ben Cabano to smash a shot coming off Gary Roberts. That made it 2-1 to Swansea before half time, and I think from then on you kind of knew who was going to control the game, and it was going to be Swansea. Birmingham had 0 excuses for the defending of their 3rd conceded goal. It was absolutely poor. Matt Grimes played the corner very, very low. They were caught napping, and Jay Fulton, given so much space, had a lot of charm, even had a miss hit of a shot, but it still got past the reach of Lee Cam. That made it 3-1 to Swansea, and that's how they wrapped up the old 3 points. It's another poor performance by Birmingham, who have not won in their last 10 games, and picking up only 6 points out of a possible 30 since Pep Clotet has announced he will leave the season, which is not very encouraging form at all. They're only 2 points above Middlesbrough as well, who were previously last week in 22nd. So maybe Birmingham may not be as safe as people might expect at the moment. There's only 4 games left though, which I think is the only positivity that Birmingham could have within this. I think they are safe with the games they have got left, but it's not encouraging form to be in. As with Swansea, they're only 1 point off Cardiff. 1 point. They have a tough game versus Leeds next game, but if they win that, I say they're in the driving seat. Then we saw Bristol City win for the first time in 10 games, and their first win since Lee Johnson has left the club. Hull, I would say, had a few chances early on from James Scott, but nothing really challenging Daniel Bentley. Bristol City broke the deadlock in the 41st minute. Jack Hunt loops a fantastic cross. It's half cleared by Hull, but a fantastic first time pass from Jamie Patterson, from Famara Jeju in so much space, completely unmarked. He shot it past George Long. That made it 1-0 to Bristol City. And in the second half, Bristol City continued to rally forward. They got their second very quickly. Jamie Patterson with a free kick from about 25 yards out. He hits it absolutely spectacularly, hitting the underside of the crossbar on the ground and into the roof of the net. It's an unbelievable goal, and for me, I'm picking Jamie Patterson as my player of the weekend, getting a goal and an assist to a Bristol City side who are in really poor run of form. I think he deserves his player of the weekend for me, but let me know who's your player of the weekend in the comments down below. Hull thought they had a little bit of a lifeline when George Honeyman delivered an inviting free kick. Bristol City will be disappointed in how they defended in that goal, but there's a great header by David that made the game look more respectable for Hull City, losing it by 2-1. As with Hull, they are back in the relegation zone. Technically they are 21st, but they only have a 3-point gap from Barnsley. They're only 4 points from Luton as well, and technically Wigan as well. The next couple of games for Hull are huge, probably the most important games of Hull City's recent history. To our penultimate game, we saw Wigan continuing to fight for their lives with a 1-0 victory against Queen's Park Rangers. They are now technically no longer at the foot of the table as they match Luton with points, and they've got a much better goal difference. Wigan scored following a great defence splitting pass by Sam Morsey, putting Kiefer Moore practically one-on-one with Joe Lumley. He could have missed from that close range. That made it 1-0 to Wigan, and to be honest, Wigan could have scored more. Queen's Park Rangers only had one notable chance in the game, which was in the second half. Brightside Samuel continuously doing so much work. He squares a cross, which is deflected to Elias Chair. He shoots it well, but Dave Marshall makes a pretty good save. Jamal Lowe could have scored 2 goals. He had so many chances. Pilkington came close a couple of times, but the win and the clean sheet for me were justified for Wigan. As for Queen's Park Rangers, it's 5 defeats and 6, so not really good form, and Warburton needs to try and reinstall some confidence in his side if they want to try and have a good season next year. But it's a great win for Wigan. Wigan's next game against Barnsley will either make or break their season, in my opinion, which leaves me excited to predict that game tomorrow. Then lastly, we saw Preston win their first game after lockdown with a 3-1 away victory against Sheffield Wednesday. I wouldn't say the result naturally reflects the pattern of the game. I thought Sheffield Wednesday were quite unlucky not to get more out of it. Chances were not plenty, but when they did have chances, both teams looked dangerous. Iorfa hit the bar in the first half, but Tom Barkhuizen had the best chance by far in the first half. Put one-on-one with Joe Wildsmith, but he doesn't even hit the target. He hits the ball wide, and you can clearly see how frustrated he was to miss that as well. Sheffield Wednesday took the lead from a moment of genius from Jacob Murphy, withering through the defence, and with a little bit of assistance from Nuhu, Jacob Murphy scores past Declan Rice, making it 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. And I thought, here we go again, Preston are going to continue to roll over and have another defeat. However, Alex Neil tactically got it spot on. His 5 substitutions he made, all 5 of them were involved in Preston's 3 goals in the final 12 minutes of the game. The equaliser came from a high ball from Ben Davies, Jayden Stockley, a sub, one header, and put Sinclair, another sub, in a great position, completely unmarked by the defence, shot past Joe Wildsmith. That made it 1-1. However, falling from that, Sheffield Wednesday thought they were retaking the lead following Borna heading in and Adam reached corner, but apparently he was offside. I had to look at it quite a few times to see why the whistle was blown in the first place. It was quite contentious. I think Sheffield Wednesday were a little bit unlucky. It was a complete sucker punch for Sheffield Wednesday when Preston managed to get the lead in the 87th minute. Once again, Ben Davies winning the ball. He lumped it up the field. Paul Gallagher won it, sub. Laid it to Daniel Johnson, sub. Laid it to Jayden Stockley, sub. He got the goal. That made it 2-1 to Preston North End. And in the final few minutes of the game, literally the last kick off the game, well, Preston were just trying to lump the ball away from their half. Brad Potts managed to win the ball from a loose ball, drove forward, one-on-one. He finished off the scoring for Preston. That made it 3-1 to Preston North End. It's a tough result for Sheffield Wednesday to take, who I thought played quite well actually. This is a very key victory for Preston, who are now only 3 points off the playoffs. So maybe their playoff hopes are not quite out of it yet. You feel maybe with their form, maybe it is a little bit too late. But a 3-point gap in 4 games is not an impossible margin to turn over. But Preston cannot afford to drop any more points in my opinion. They've got some really tough games coming up. So there you have it. This is my review of the midweek games in the Championship, minus the Leeds United and Stoke game. Here is the current table. West Brom first on 80 points. Brentford are now back to 3rd, 3 points behind Leeds, who of course have played a game more than Leeds. Cardiff are still 6th with 64 points. However, Swansea are now at 7th with 63 points. Preston and Derby are hot in their heels with 61 points. Birmingham, with their poor form, sitting 17th with 49 points, but only 2 points ahead of 18th place Middlesbrough, where last week they were in bottom 3. Stoke and Charlton are hanging on by the skin of their teeth, although Stoke do have a game in hand. The bottom 3 is Hull on 45 points, Barnsley on 42, and Luton on 41. Technically, Wigan will be joint on points with Luton on 41 points, but higher placed than Luton since they've got a better goal difference. And technically 4 points off 21st placed Hull City. We've got a very gripping 2 weeks coming up. But that wraps it up. That's my review of the midweek games in the Championship. Let me know if you want me to do this for next week as well. If you guys like what you want to see more Championship content and more of me, please make sure you do give this video a like. It's tremendously appreciated. If you can, please subscribe to the channel. It would really make my day. And if you can, please share this channel. That's how we grow as a community. All of that would really make my day. Thank you guys so much for watching, guys. A legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care.